Poe is an amazing writer. He's also a very depressing writer. That's why I think Estonians love him. I think Scandinavia love him. He's very depressing in terms of very negativity. He looked at the dark side. I think personally, as a former literature teacher of English in America, he flew too close to the dark side, like a moth. And he got very close to it. And I really don't think he came back. He captures something in this one poem. Obviously, you can cite his other works, they're great. But this one poem, to me, summarizes Edgar Allan Poe. Also, it's interesting, and there's an Estonian connection. In 1993, I came to this country, and I discovered a second here, Soviet Union fell, whatever, I came. And I was renting apartment on Tartu West. And the owner, Mal and Pyro, sweet people, retired doctor, retired engineer. But Mal asked me about Edgar Allan Poe. Good question. She couldn't believe he was American. She thought he was British. And I was confused because he was born in Boston and lived most of his life in Baltimore. But she thought he was British. And I was curious, why do you think he was British? And she said, well, because he's so good. I went, okay. Believe it or not, there's a few of us Americans who are actually good. Now, obviously, this is the original in English. There has been translated into Estonian. The problem with translating to Estonian is there's a lot of words that had to be, that don't exist. And I don't know, Ari, who was the gentleman that translated?
Johannes Aavik was the first one, yeah.
He did. Okay. So the guy's got to be brilliant to do that. It is a level to take one language and to be able to communicate it into another. So I'm going to present to you the original English, not just with the pronunciation, but the way it's supposed to be done in terms of the presentation. You have to combine both, pronunciation and presentation. So this is The Raven by the late Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight prairie, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Nameless here, forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still my beating heart, I stood repeating, some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is. Nothing more. Presently my soul grew stronger. Hesitatingly, then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, so faintly you came tapping and tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was whispered, the word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard it tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what fret is in this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind. Nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mane of lord lady perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. Perched and sat. And nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven. Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore, tell me why thy lordly name is on the nice Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with things a bird upon his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust upon this chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will lead me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken, doubtless said I, what it utters is only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom a merciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that the melancholy bore of nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy and a fancy, thinking that this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to this fowl whose fairy eyes now burned in my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight overglore, but whose velvet violet lining with lamplight overglore she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, cried I, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nemeth from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind of nepenthe, and forgot this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil. Prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sense or whether tempest tossed, be here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil. Prophet still, bird or devil. By the heavens that bend above us, by God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Iden, it still clasp a Satan maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked up starting, get thee back in tempest and the night's plutonium shore. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie that thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bus upon my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from out my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flirting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamp lower at him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out of the shadow that flies floating on the floor shall be lifted